Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another day text. Today's Thursday, June 27th, and we're going to be finishing up the letter of 3rd John today. So we started 3rd John yesterday in our day text. It's a brief letter, one of 3 letters that John wrote, tucked in near the end of the New Testament. Most people are familiar with John's gospel or great message, but not so much his letters. But now we have a much better understanding, having gone through these day texts, I would say, right? Okay, so let's finish up here with the letters of John, with the remaining text of 3rd John, which will be verses 9 through 14. So I'll get right to it, and then we'll go over the material. I'll give a couple updates, specifically about this Sunday's show. I'm doing well, thank you to all of you. And I'm going to specifically mention you by name from now on if I can. And you're going to see why in today's reading. So good morning, Justin Juluz. And if I mispronounce it, I apologize. And good morning, Betsy. So why am I specifying your names? Even though sometimes I do, I'm going to try to do it more often, but why? Let's look at the text. 3rd John, starting in verse 9. Sometimes, as you know, I'll make a comment between the verses. Other times I'll just read straight through and then we'll talk about it afterward. All right, let's start in verse 9. I wrote something to the gathered Christians. This is John talking, Jesus' beloved disciple. However, the one who loves to be first among them, Diotrephes, does not welcome us. Now, it's kind of fun. Well, I don't want to say funny. It's kind of odd, I would say, right? I mean, we're dealing with Christians. We've been reading John. We know how he is. We know his mindset. We know how people like Gaius and others acted and were viewed. And here we have someone, Diotrephes, who's displaying a different quality. Right? He likes to be first among them. And what did Jesus say? Remember the illustration that he gave? That when you enter into a gathering, not to take the most prominent seat, because then someone may ask you to get up and you'd be humiliated. And when we look at, for example, Jesus' disciples, when they were arguing among themselves over who was the greatest, right? And in one sense, it's kind of like, well, who's the first among them? Who's the priority? Who's number one, right? Who's to be given first priority was basically what they were talking about relative to the greatness that they were discussing among each other about themselves. So it's very similar, that mindset that they had that we see here, this thought, the thinking of being better than your brothers and sisters in a way that causes you to act as if you're better. It's not just something you think about here and there. You're actually doing things to further these thoughts. So let's see where this goes. So we have this person now. He's like someone who wants to have the best seat, like someone who wants to be the greatest among them, or first among them, as John writes. Okay, verse 10. For this reason, that is because Diotrephes doesn't welcome them and wants to be first. For this reason, if I should come, I will remember his works, which he does with evil words, slandering us. Because remember, we're not supposed to keep account of sin, right? We're supposed to forgive people, move on, become better, help each other. Not Diotrephes. Not Diotrephes. John made it a point to state here he's going to remember what he did. Because he did it with evil words and slandered them, just like the devil, right? Slandering means saying something bad about someone that isn't true, making them seem to be worse than they are. Usually to make yourself look better because of your own insecurities. So whenever you see someone putting themselves above other people, that's what we're dealing with, this same situation involving Diotrephes, type of person in Jesus' illustration about the prominent seat, and his own disciples and early students who were arguing among themselves about who was the best, even while in the presence of the best. Right? Jesus was the best, copying only what his Father did. Yet he, as the best, was washing their feet. Yet they were arguing about who was better than each other. You see how far apart they were at that time? Yet he stayed with them to show them the things they needed to understand better and to then practice, like John's talking about here. And then now John is kind of in the position that Jesus was in when they were his students, only now he has these people, including Diotrephes. So I'm sure he reflected back on the time like we just did, about when they were arguing the same way with Jesus, who was greater. So I'm sure when he found out Diotrephes was having a similar thinking, maybe it made him think back to the time when they were immature as well. But here it's a little bit beyond that, right? Because he says he does it with evil words, slandering them. We don't get that sense in the context of when the disciples were arguing about who was better. It wasn't a good thing. But there's nothing in the text that indicates it was done with slander or with evil words. And then the rest of verse 10, as if he, Diotrephes, is not content with doing such things. He also does not welcome the brothers. Those who are truly interested, he stops and forcefully brings them away from the gathered Christians. Remember, this is in contrast to Gaius, who was a host, according to Romans 16:23, of all Christians. So he's contrasting the things known about Gaius and that he mentioned in the first part of this third letter with what is happening with Diotrephes. And how he stopped, whereas Gaius is helping and furthering the brotherhood in Christianity, Diotrephes, because of his own selfish vanity, because he wants to be first, he's stopping it. He's interfering with their ability to try to help people. Who do we know that's like that today? We don't need to name names. But can you not identify people who, rather than help the brothers who are interested in Christ, they pull people away to their own discussion boards or groups and try to tell them that this is what we should be doing, arguing about the Trinity, denying Jesus' pre-human existence. You don't want to go over with those people. Come over here. No, those are terrible people. He calls people retarded, all that stuff, evil words. Even though, of course, I explain those very terms, and people definitely at times act retarded. So they're the ones who are simply bringing out the descriptive terms appropriate for their activity. Just like Jesus called the Pharisees and others fools. And the Bible refers to people over and over again as stupid ones. That's not a basis for telling someone not to listen to another person, unless they're indiscriminately calling people dumb, stupid, or retarded, and there's no reason for it. I'm a middle-aged man on YouTube talking about the Bible. I'm not going to let certain people come onto my channel and act retarded without calling them retards. They're the ones who are acting in the way that justifies certain descriptions. I don't like doing that. It's not like I look forward to every time I can point out someone dumb. That's actually disheartening. I have to do it anyway, though, right? Because if I don't, other people will start listening to these idiots and think that what they're saying, just because they're saying it, might have some merit to it. Because a lot of people are weak, right? Just like Eve. She didn't really have any reason to believe Satan. Just because he said it, she started thinking about it, and it seemed like it had merit. So people can be weak and deceived. So they could just say something dumb about me or someone else who's teaching the truth about the Christ and affect people's ability to learn what we need to learn so we can teach others the same things. We're not here to get involved in different people's way of handling things or their different personalities. But if someone is using evil words to slander others and not welcoming the brothers and stopping people who would otherwise be interested, well, then they're like Diotrephes, right? They're not just someone who's addressing people in a firm way because they're acting inappropriately, or they're coming to someone else's channel not revealing their identity just so they can act dumb. So that's not something we're here to tolerate. We don't need to accept that kind of negativity or idiocy while we're trying to promote the truth. So in any case, that's why at times I will simply move past others or call them what they are even if it's not something I really am here to do. I'm actually here to help you, help me, and teach others. But I realize we have all kinds of things that come up. People will say things. And so if it's not something evil, if it's not slander, and if people aren't trying, if someone's not trying to stop others from meeting with Christians, then that's probably not that big of a deal, right? It's probably a personality issue or just the way someone is. But if someone is using evil words to slander others, slander mean really lie about them in ways that are not true, but that make them look like something they're not. Or if they try to stop people, or if you try to prevent people from benefiting from Christian association because you're too vain and you want to be first among Christians like Diotrephes, and you want them listening to you versus someone else, well, then you're not someone we should be following. You're like Diotrephes. These are the signs. These are the things you should watch for. So you can tell if someone is trying to pull you away from a beneficial gathering of Christians. You should immediately stop listening to that person. Stop reading their emails, stop going to their boards, everything, because they're only going to try to keep pulling you away. They're not trying to build you up. They're trying to trap you into a system of useless debate just so they can feel better about themselves, as if they have some special quality to be able to repeat the things that have already been said over and over and over again. That's all they have. So with respect, well, let's take a look again. So I wanted to discuss that a little bit more so you can understand what to look for in different people. We're not all perfect. We do different things. Someone may say, why? Can you believe this guy? Or can you believe what that woman said? Look at these things, okay? Are they using evil words? Are they slandering other people? Are they preventing others from benefiting from Christian gatherings? That's Diotrephes right there. Do they like to be first? Okay, do they want you giving them priority as people versus the Christ and the message? It's not about me. It's not about that person. It never should be. It never was. So why would it ever be? Yet that's what they do. They make it about them because they like to be first among us. That's not how we're supposed to be. The Christ is our example. He's number one. And if he is number one, acted like number 2, 3, or 4 by lowering himself even more, what are you prepared to do? Verse 11, dearly loved one, do not copy what is wrong. Instead, copy what is right. The one who intends to do what is right is from God. The one who intends to do what is wrong has not experienced God. Verse 12, with respect to Demetrius, he has been confirmed by everyone, and by the truth itself. We also approve him. You have learned our testimony is true. Verse 13, I have many things to write to you. However, I do not want to communicate to you with ink and a reed or a writing stick. Verse 14, our last verse of 3 John and the letters of John. I am hoping to look upon you very soon. Then we will speak mouth to mouth. Peace be with you. The brothers warmly welcome you. And notice this part. You must warmly welcome the brothers according to each person's name. I don't know why. I never really noticed that part before. I mean, I'm sure I read it, but it just didn't stick with me. I know the importance of using people's names. And often I meet so many different people. It's hard to remember all the names. Because, I mean, unless you make a connection with someone, it's difficult to make their name something that you as part of your permanent record. Because again, we meet so many different individuals briefly and in ways that just don't linger enough in our memory. So let's just take a quick look back here. We already covered pretty much the whole issue about Diotrephes, what he was doing, how he's like some today who just want to be first among us. Then they pull people away from others who are actually benefiting them. You can tell Okay? You can tell, and you have to act when you start to see these kinds of Diotrephes-like tendencies in people. And then we're reminded, don't copy what is wrong. Seems kind of obvious, right? But people will copy individuals like Diotrephes. That's why we have them today, whether they know it or not. The one who intends to do what is right, verse 11, is from God. So you can make mistakes, but you should be trying to do what's right. Who really wants to try to do what's wrong? Unless you're really confused about right and wrong. But that's where the golden rule comes into play, right? That's a way for us to determine and discern whether or not our actions are consistent with our desires and what we would want done to us. And if not, if we're doing something to someone else we wouldn't want done to us, and there's no good reason for why we're doing it, we should rethink our actions. And then you notice he references Demetrius, someone unlike Diotrephes, obviously, because he, like Gaius, was confirmed. Remember, Gaius was given testimony by the foreigners, and so he was accepted. And Paul also appears to speak of him in favorable terms. And so when we have reason to give good testimony about people, we should do it. You know, we can't always speak for everything someone does, and people can change. But if we have good reason to testify about what we know and have experienced from certain individuals, we should do it so that other people know what we've experienced and what they likely will receive. These are our letters of recommendation, as the New Testament elsewhere teaches. So we also want to be mindful of those who are causing division or putting themselves above others too. Stay away from them, avoid them. I have to block people all the time because you can tell by their comments, things that they say and do. They're either absolutely unable to comprehend the nature of a show, or they will simply make comments, say things that either aren't at all involved with what we're talking about, or that appear designed to get us off topic, or re-debate the very same things we've already gone over. So I have to deal with those kind of people all the time. They want to be first. They want to pull people away into their preferred topic of debate or discussion. It's not going to happen here, at least not regularly. So you have to deal with that yourselves as well, right? I'm sure you have certain forums or people or places that at times will try to get you to get involved in things that you're not interested in anymore, or that really don't benefit you or other people the way you want it to if you're going to get involved. So you have to make decisions. Where are you going to spend your time? Who are you going to spend your time with? Diotrephes or Demetrius? And then he talks about how he wants to see them very soon. You know, they had to write and they were over long distances. And we can see each other like you see me now. And I can kind of see you. But we should try our best to work with those close to us so we're in person with people that we can get encouragement from. We can't do that completely online. We need interpersonal association of some kind. And I'm going to make it a point. I started today, and at times I do try to do this, but I'm going to do it even more so after verse 14. Because he basically says, you know, he's telling us right there how important it is to welcome people according to their name. So I'm going to do a better job of that. I need to improve there for sure. And we'll see how that goes. And if you have a difficult name, bear with me or let me know how to better pronounce it. But I'm going to start using your names more regularly, so be prepared for that. All right, we got through 3rd John, just like 1 John, 2 John had a wealth of information for us. I hope you were able to gather a number of things that will benefit you and encourage you, help you understand the circumstances involved with the early Christians, with Christians like John and the different people he had to deal with, whether they were helpful or not. It's just like us today. We have similar types of individuals who we think want to help us, but then don't, or we know won't help us, and yet they still keep coming around to try to burden us. So we all have to deal with those things, and everybody else has to deal with their things. So the easier we can make it on people, I think the easier it will be on everybody, right? But that's not the way the world is. It doesn't look to make things easy on everybody. So we have to do it. we have to be the ones who recognize different people like Demetrius and Gaius and help them. And we also have to be able to recognize people like Diotrephes and avoid them. And try not to let them influence other people if we can help it. But everyone must choose, and so we shouldn't worry too much about what other people do, because at the end of the day, every single person will be judged based on what they do in Jesus' name. So we have to have confidence in that. Don't feel you have to solve every problem or help every single person. Just help those you can and solve the problems that you're able to solve according to the means of which God gives you and the power he gives you to stand and face all these things. So I'm just taking a look to see that if I didn't miss anything significant. And we got Benzi Roy back. Okay, I didn't mention Benzi Roy, so that's another name. And then I'm not going to mention every name if it wasn't a positive comment. Or again, if you make comments on these shows and they're totally unrelated to what we're talking about, I can't let you keep commenting on the show because you're just going to distract us from what we're discussing. It's not respectful. So you should ask your questions according to the content of the show. It's not that difficult. And to make it easier, I'm going to do an open session this Sunday. So that way, if you have questions that don't pertain directly to the day text or to the topic of another show, you can ask your question anyway. And so hopefully I'll be able to assist those who do have questions unrelated to our design, our formatted material. So open session Sunday, we'll do that, give people a chance to maybe ask questions about things that I haven't been doing shows over or that haven't come up in our day text readings. And then tomorrow we're going to start the letter of Jude. A lot of good information in Jude, of course, followed by the Revelation. So these day texts are only going to get more and more interesting. I hope you'll all continue to join me. I'll be busy doing a few things today work-wise. I have, of course, a lot of videos I want to get up, but it takes time. So I'll do my best. I'll keep going through these day texts. Open session on Sunday. And until then, may God bless you. In Jesus' name.